Hi everyone, this is Ana Luisa from Some Studio Milano. I'm here with Marlon.
Hello, guys.
And today we are hosting our second talk for the series Back to Materials in collaboration with Isola.design District. We are very happy to welcome DJ from Post Carbon Lab, all the way back from London. Welcome, DJ.
Hi. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you
Hello,
so
DJ.
much for taking part in our talks. You know that we have been following up with your work and we have been in touch through Instagram and emails, and it's so good to finally meet you
Yes.
and talk and find out a bit more about your work and share with everybody who's watching us. So, how are you? First of all, how are you today?
Yes, I'm good. I'm very excited. I've brought some little samples to show everybody.
Okay, great. We are also very excited. So we have some questions here for you, but before we
Yes.
start, please introduce yourself, your academic
Yes.
background, your experience, so people can know a bit more about you.
Sure. So my name is Dinjin Lin, but most people call me DJ. And unfortunately today, my co-founder Hannes Hustard, who can't be here today, so I will be representing Post Carbon Lab today. So I came from a fashion and design background, and I have industry experience in the past decade within the fashion and design industry. And because we are a transdisciplinary design research studio, so Hannes came from a architectural science background. So together we co-founded the Post Carbon Lab to focus on issues that we we hold very dearly to our heart. So issues around sustainability and dignity. So this reflects on multiple projects we have worked on before, ranging from humanitarian platform for Syrian refugees to sustainability communication amongst the most within the demographic that they themselves struggle with lives in general, so like more impoverished areas. So and then to the probably why we're here today, the more bio-design services that we're currently doing.
Yes. And when did you start Post Carbon Lab exactly?
So I think it depends on how you define start.
Okay.
Because, so like for instance, we started research back in 2014. However, we only launched the services that we are going to talk about today back in the Design Festival where we first met.
Yes.
Last September. And then we've only recently registered.
Okay, I see. No, yes, I was going to say that we actually came across your work from the London Design Festival, and then we saw two projects, the pilot projects called bacterial pigment dyeing and photosynthesis coating on fabrics and garments. And we were like really amazed. So please explain. You are welcome. Could you please explain to people who are watching us a bit about these two pilot projects?
Yes. So this is a response to the need of change within the fashion industry. And especially given that, fast fashion propels so much overconsumption and a lot of, in UK alone, there's 350,000 tons of textile waste going to landfill or being incinerated annually. So me coming from a fashion design background, thinking, what's the whole point of, making any more fashion pieces because we already have so much that we have to bin. So so we aim to provide, we aim to answer the question of, why we're doing fashion and what is the ecological role of fashion. So we decide to start looking into nature for solutions. So for the two services that you talked about, so the first one, bacterial pigment dyeing, is to use bacteria and microorganisms that we can find naturally within our surroundings. So we use locally sourced microorganisms, and we basically grow them on textile substrates to create pigmentation. so similar to these patterns. So
Yes.
these are grown through a soil-based bacteria, and it produces a antiviral, antimicrobial pigmentation on textile substrates. And then through different groups of microbes, we're able to also grow other colors such as orange and red. But these we're still researching, and we're working with brands to discover some possibilities, which I won't be able to talk in details about today.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then the other part we're doing is the photosynthetic coating. So for the coating, we basically embed photosynthetic properties within textiles. So such as, so we basically use similar locally sourced microorganisms that spans in the algae or cyanobacteria spectrum. And then we weave them into textile substrates. So I have some textile samples here, such as this.
Wow. Nice.
So this is, I try to not water them so that you can see a little bit better the colors. So they create a greenish color, which can change to, I also have this one. So they create a green hue to the textiles because they themselves have colors embedded. So not just that the dye itself, it's living, but it also creates the colors we so desire to, embed beautiful meanings to garments. And I also have this piece. It doesn't look really great in light, but it actually has a bit of a marble effect on it.
Okay.
It's a silk fabric. So we actually, we experiment with the way that we can create patterns and create, beautiful range of different green colors for photosynthetic coating.
That's very interesting. Yeah. And
so that's the things we do.
Yes, no, and we were curious how was this experience to take part in the London Design Festival? How people react when they visit your stand, your project? How was it for you?
We had quite an extreme. We had like different type of response. So some people think we're crazy.
Okay.
Some people think, oh, this is like really out there. Like I wouldn't want to live something. I wouldn't want to wear something that's alive. I wouldn't want to wear something that's like living. However, some other people think we're genius. Some people think, this is what we need for the future because we are in a time that. We've only got 10 years left to fight climate change, and fashion isn't doing anything substantial to alleviate that. So this is something that we need to actually, I guess, mitigate and offset whatever is needed and regenerate the damage that has already been done. So it's sort of a very wide spectrum of response we have received from all kinds of different people. Yeah.
Yes, I guess because we are talking about innovation, and whenever we talk about innovation, we can find some barriers, some resistance. People need to get used to and maybe get more informed. But yeah, it was really nice. We saw that people could revamp also their clothes in your stand there in the London Design Festival. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Thank you.
And another thing we would like to talk about is about collaboration, because we see that you collaborate a lot with organizations and brands. We saw some time ago that you are collaborating with a fashion brand called JP Atelier, I think. That's the way you pronounce it.
We're still working with them, yeah.
Yeah, and if you can tell us about this collaboration, how is it, how it came about?
Yes. So actually, we met Juliana from the JP Atelier back in the beginning of this year, and we've wanted to collaborate because JP Atelier, they are a female empowering, and they also have a very big focus on environmental designs. So we've started this conversation already, starting from the value point, because our values are very well aligned. And as a sustainable luxury women's wear brand, they're very interested in, what positive impacts can fashion bring about within the luxury sector. Because luxury fashion always have a lot of money, and a lot of money makes things a lot easier to facilitate. So we're starting this pilot with them. So back in, I think, last already 2 months ago. We started this philanthropy collection with JP Atelier, where they created these different T-shirts that are embroidered with empowering female, selected by independent females who, female communities who supported their initiative. And then they selected 5 words, and then they give one T-shirt that's, I guess, that will contribute 30% of the proceeds to us, because we're still sort of in a non-profit organizational model for the moment.
Okay.
So for the moment, we are working on. We were working towards sort of. We've started the philanthropy collection. Okay. And then now we're working on a second 20/21 collection with JP Atelier to create other. So we're calling it like a climate positive, female empowering collection within the luxury sector. I can't show you designs or anything yet.
Yeah, no, but we will be following up with you, and we are curious to see what's next. Yeah, because we also believe that sustainability is not only about climate change, but about, diversity, about women empowerment, about, equality and all these things. We see sustainability, very broadly. So yeah, we are really curious, interested to see what's coming next from this collaboration.
I mean, same for us. I mean, we've collaborated with multiple different brands and industries from different sectors, ranging not just in fashion, but also in product and interior, and then in automotive. And I think there are a lot of applications that's available for textiles. And as long as there's a textile presence within the product or design range, there is a space for us to collaborate with this industry or this market area. Yeah. So, I mean, that's what we're trying to do. But it's, of course, a lot more challenging with the COVID situation.
I see. And since you were talking about that, what are the challenges you found when you are collaborating or trying to collaborate with brands, fashion brands or other brands? What are the biggest challenges?
Yes. I mean, for the moment, we're still doing a similar, like longitudinal study to understand the full scope of how people, not just the users, the end users, but also stakeholders within the supply chain, how would they interact with a living material? Because it's a living material, meaning that if proper care is not given, the condition or the, how happy the microorganisms are on our treated materials, they can then change. So like I said, if you didn't provide proper care, they send you a signal through color changing. So they change from green to orange, purple, red, depending on the environmental stimulus it's been given. And this is something really, really big embedded within our design process, is that we think within a lot of the design objects we have around us, there's not enough care embedded in there. So it makes it easy to dispose them afterwards, or it makes it seems much more convenient to simply get rid of it or get a new one, rather than, mending it, repairing it, and taking that time and effort to actually appreciate the material that has came from, farms to factories to distribution logistics to be where you are now. So this is something that we find, I guess, challenging, but also the most interesting part. Because through collaborations, we have to work with, say, textile suppliers. We have to work with other other textile processing companies. We have to work with manufacturers, such as like sewers and overlockers and these workers, and then to, as well as the retail distribution people. All these people that are all along the supply chain, they have to work with us on the rules that we give them. Say, at every point, these pieces will need to be unboxed, and then they need to be taken care of before they can be boxed again and then shipped to another new location. So that's why for the moment we're focusing in Europe-based operation. So everything, all the collaborators are within Europe, and despite we've received a lot of interest coming from, Australia, Asia, and America, but it just seems unjust if we, resort to long distance shipping, which result in a lot of carbon emission. To then, do what we're trying to do here, which is to create textiles that embed positive meanings through the operation and to all the way to the users, where when they're using the material, they themselves are reaping the benefit, to say fresh oxygen, say, building a nurturing relationship with their garment. So that's challenging. Yeah.
Yeah, and since we are talking about collaboration, what's the role of collaboration in your work? How important it is? Because also whenever we talk about sustainable products and services, or when we talk about the circular economy, collaboration is key, because we need to get everybody in the producer chain involved. So how is this for you?
So, I mean, collaboration is everything for us. We're not doing anything without collaboration, because we are a service-based company. And this means that we provide service based on textiles manufactured by other people and for the product range that's desired by a different brand. And we choose to establish our, operation this way because we then depend on each other. And this also results in us not creating any raw, unnecessary carbon footprint. Anything that we do is in response to a market demand that already exists. So it's not creating. So, it's very easy for us to say, for the sake of making a lot of money. It's easy for us to say, we start sourcing, I don't know, £1 t-shirts from Primark, for instance. And then we buy loads of them, and then we go through our processes, and then we start chugging into the market saying, this is the whole climate positive t-shirts, please buy these now. That would then lose the whole point of why we're doing this, which is why we're collaboration based, which is why we say, you're a brand who you've established your supply chain and your workers in the way that you're working now. However, this is not coherent to our environmental challenges we're facing now. So you work with us. We help you, transition your business operation. We help you develop more environmentally friendly product in a way that, embeds not just environmentally friendly, but regenerative and remediative, that we can then, this can then go back into your product range. And you as a brand can also bring about more positive impact. So we help, who collaborates with us to make that little transition that they need to go forward in a time that we're basically facing our self-extinction in 10 years' time. Yeah.
I see. So collaboration is absolutely key for your work. I mean,
definitely. And it's also because we collaborate, we're able to preach our ethos. So the fact that we're aiming not just for, carbon neutral, or we're not just aiming for, to mitigate whatever harm you usually would have put into the world. We're aiming for climate positive. We're aiming to be regenerative, because there are so much harm that's been done and nobody's talking about that. And we need to find a way to mitigate that. So, but however, this concept is not really common within the industry in general. So every time we collaborate with so for instance, a recent collaboration project we're doing, there's 5 stakeholders involved, and every 5 stakeholders, we need to teach them how to take care of our materials, and why are we doing this care routine, and what kind of sustainability communication and education needs to be done for these 5 parties to be involved.
I see. Actually, this is no, go ahead.
So it is a really big there's a lot of communication that's embedded within all the collaborations that we do. But what we hopefully to achieve is not just that, we change maybe 1 or 2 products. It's not just that we want to change those products alone, but is that we experiment we pilot with these stakeholders so that they can explore alternative ways to run their business. Because they always think, oh, there's only this one way, we sell products, we make money, that's the only way we can go. However, why can't we, allocate a little bit of the budget to look into alternative ways, for a more circular economy, for a more regenerative economy? Why can't these ways coexist? And for the moment, it's very difficult to convince traditional industry businesses to shift their mindset into that. Which is why we have to do a lot of these communication work.
Communication is key in this process. And talking about communication and awareness, we see nowadays that designers are a bit of alchemists and also activists. So it's common nowadays to see designers running workshops and talks to raise awareness, to share their research findings. And we see that you also run some workshops. So we would like to know when did you start with that and why, and how important are these workshops for you guys, and also in order to communicate all these processes, to change mindset and whatnot.
So I think this goes back to our sort of outreach, I guess, strategy. So we believe that through collaboration, we need to, because ultimately we want to reach to as many people as possible, and then to show them that alternative ways of doing things, alternative ways of living, alternative ways of doing your business can be possible. So for the moment, we're going sort of like a two approach. So we're doing these grassroots collaborations. This means we're doing like a bottom up. So we engage with local communities, we engage with students, we engage with, just commoners who has no idea about innovation, no idea about fashion, or no idea about where their clothes come from. So this is kind of a grassroots approach that we do through doing, workshops and exhibitions, little lectures in local venues, etc. So this is like the grassroots approach that we do. The other part that we do is through industry collaboration. So this is more of a top-bottom approach. So we work with stakeholders within the industry. I mean, they're not like, conglomerates yet, but they are really important influencers, or they are each little small, they're each SMEs within Europe, and they have their own sort of circle of influence. So we also do these more industry-based, collaboration-based workshops as well as talks, but in more like a private setting. So within like little companies, for instance. And then we also share how things can be done differently, and then how can you source materials differently? How can you differentiate different dyes between this and that? So this is kind of our sort of top-bottom approach. So this is why we have you see that we do workshops, and then we also do industry collaborations.
I see. We actually saw these days on your Instagram a workshop called Climate is Activism, Grounded Rebellion. We were curious about this. Can you explain us a bit about this workshop specifically?
Yes. So this is actually part of our residency program with Youngblood Initiative, which is a local artist-based initiative collective. And then in collaboration with Aberfeldy Street, which is a part in East London, in Poplar, which is a much less developed area. And the local authorities are very keen to I guess, inject more artistic, creative communities into these neighborhoods, so that the neighborhood can be more vivid and be more interesting to engage people to come here and visit, to create more economical opportunities. So then we are based there for a week, and then we hosted these 3 workshops. So it's about activism essentially, but I think activism is really difficult in a time of COVID, because we can't really leave our home, and even if we leave home, we can only go within a certain radius, and then maybe for only 1 hour or something. So most of the time we're grounded. That's why it comes to the grounded
I
rebellion
see.
or climate selectivism. And selectivism is the combination of slack, which is being, lazy and being at home, and activism. So it's like a lazy way to engage with climate activism. Because when we think about activism, we think about, for instance, like Extinction Rebellion, they have to go on the street, you have to create posters, you have to march, and that can sometimes be a bit too demanding for people who want to engage with the issue, but then they don't necessarily have the time, or they don't necessarily have the energy to do so, so it's not that accessible. However, we created this series to teach people very easy ways that they can, change little aspects within their lifestyle to engage with climate activism. So we talked about, say, one workshop was about using recycled oil to create soap, because soap is increasingly very important in the COVID times. And they're usually made through, artificial means, and they're not very sustainable. However, if we use recycled oil from, local, fries, deep fried chicken, or, these deep fried fryer shop restaurants, then they can be turned into something, we can use on a daily basis. And then we also taught, how to make soy milk, which is in response to veganism. And then and also like indoor composting and an indoor plant, like making indoor gardens. So these are also things that people can do within their domestic environment, and respond in their capacity they can to contribute to their climate, footprint in general.
Very nice, very interesting. And now we are reaching the end of our talk, but we have some couple questions here. So regarding biomaterials, what do you think is the future of biomaterials in the world of fashion? And
so I think biomaterial for biomaterial to be at the exact same standard that the industry requires to reach mass production scale, standardization, globalization, there's still quite a way to go. So the way that biomaterial needs to be approached is either through localization, so through what's happening now, these little design studios and design students, graduates, they're all doing all these different biomaterials and experimenting with things they can find within their vicinity. And that's then, I think, how biomaterial is going to approach, to respond to sustainability in the next, 5 to 10 years, until somebody come up with a way to either lower the standardization in terms of longevity, technical performance, because most of them are still not waterproof in general. And then, industries are very obsessed with fitting specific standard, obtaining specific certification. And that's also something we have to fight with, where we talk about what is more important than standardization. And of course, we're not talking about creating living garments for, say, firefighters. We're talking about we're not talking about military. We're not talking about hospital use, but we're talking about in general, like in daily use, like you and I working in the office. And for these kind of less technical performance demanding textiles, how can we make these more sustainable? Because this is the part that the large population is depending on.
Yeah.
So it's the same for biomaterial until it reaches that point that we can entirely replace it, which is probably in the next 5 to 10 years.
I see.
For the moment, we need to go for globalization, where everybody creates things and innovate with what they can find.
Okay, I see. Now our last question. We would like to know for you, what's the biggest challenge that designers face in order to help us building a sustainable world and to shift towards a circular economy?
You said the biggest challenge for designers in general.
Yeah.
I think fundamentally it's for them themselves to explore why they're doing what they're doing. So like, why are you designing? Because we already have so many stuff going on. We already have so many designs that's just, I mean, incinerated, binned, or just, I don't know, it's not, I mean, in the developed world, we are already very saturated with stuff in our lives. And I think designers need to find a way to justify that. They need to justify why they're doing what they're doing. And if biomaterial is a way for them to answer that, yes, that's okay. And if you still operate within the mindset, say, you know, I want to create beautiful designs, I want to create you know, fancy things that people can express their identities, yes, those are great. However, you need to justify the social and environmental footprint that comes to the creation of this of manufacturing this design. And I think that's something that a lot of us needs to reflect on ourselves, which is the process that we have gone through ourselves, which is why we arrived to becoming a service-based studio instead of, you know, product-based. And I think for a lot of the product-based studios or designers, they also need to think about that. They need to think about, why is product selling products your approach? And the other really critical question is the world better if you don't do what you're doing?
Yeah.
So because we know that through COVID, that, you know, a lot of us didn't go to work, a lot of us just stayed home. And then we learned that nature is healing on its own.
Yeah.
So, you know, especially in Italy, you know, the Venice canal is much clearer. It's just because people are not doing things. It's not because people are actively cleaning up trash or actively filtering out the water. No, they're just not doing anything. Nature can heal on its own, and we need to acknowledge that. So if you're doing things that's not necessarily aiding that, then you need to find a really good reason to justify, why am I doing this? And how am I compensating the footprint that comes from my operation? So it's a very existential question to answer.
It's a very difficult question, but it's fundamental, I guess. Yeah, I totally agree with you. So yeah, we reached the end of this talk. Thanks so much, DJ. We are very happy to have.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
Oh, thank you.
It was so inspiring.
Thank you.
And thanks once again to Isola for hosting us. And we will be back later on with Pensiero Materia. And please, guys, follow up with Post Carbon Lab. Their work is amazing, and that they are always coming with new things. And yeah, we see you around, DJ. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Ciao,
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Bye, Anna and Marlon. Thank you.